Hello, Andrew K here, and a little painting video on using contrast paints to paint epic 40k. So in this case, we're going to use these Terminators, Space Marine Terminators, and test out these contrast paints on them, see how well they work. I've got a good feeling they're going to work pretty well. In regards to the Terminators, they're undercoated in Greaseair. I went ahead and based them first. Again, using the Bacchus fine sand, watered down PVA. Put the sand on. Once that was dry, I use a brown wash, usually Army paint or soft tone. And then once that's dry, kind of make sure your sand doesn't rub off or anything like that. Dry brush of Zandari dust and a dry brush of Ushanti bone over that to highlight it a wee bit. So got that nice deserty look that I like on mine. As I say, these are Greaseair. They're all primed, ready to go. We're going to use this wee detail brush to put the contrast on. Now, there's plenty of videos about contrast paint. My own personal opinions, it's a handy little tool. They're great for being very lazy. They're not great for painting only in contrast, I find. I actually don't really like them on Space Marines, like proper 40k Space Marines. They're more hassle than they're worth. I find that once you've got your contrast on, you usually need to do at least 2 coats of it and then glaze over it, and then highlight as well on top of that, because it looks kind of blotchy and it looks like you've used contrast paints. It's not my cup of tea, but it is very quick. I do like the Warboss Green contrast that they've got for doing Orc Flesh. It's brilliant on Orc Flesh, but armor plates and flat surfaces, it's not great. But at 6mm, it actually is great. I do Imperial Fists, slowly but surely, building an Imperial Fist army, and I can tell you now that the yellow is great for them. It basically does your base, your shading, and your highlighting in one fell sweep, and at 6mm, it looks grand, especially when you're looking at them from 4 feet away, 3 feet away on the battlefield. So we're going to test these other colours out, because some of these I actually haven't used, but I've got a good feeling they'll work the same as the yellow. So we're going to do contrast Black Templar on one of them. I won't be painting them as a Black Templar because I detest Black Templars. Black Templars can go to hell. Probably do him as a Raven Guard, because Raven Guard's cool. Next one I've got is Talisar Blue. I'm not too sure. I think it's a bit dark for Ultramarines, so he might be a Crimson Fist. We'll see what happens with that. Blood Angel's red. Hopefully get a good Blood Angel in there. Apothecary White, which should be very interesting to see how it works at 6mm. I don't know. Probably go for a White Scar with him, and then finally a wee Imperial Fist lad at the end. And we'll see how the armor looks. Because most of these, especially with Terminators, most of it is just the armor. After that, I'll do a little bit of extra colours regarding the chapter at the bottom of the shoulder pads. If you can see, on Terminators, there's not that massive amount of detail at 6mm. So you've got a little trim around the shoulder blades, or the shoulder pads, the end of the shoulder pads. So, for example, with my Imperial Fists, I do a wee red line, wee ribbon of red at the bottom of them, and I'll do the same for these other lads in their respective chapters. Bolters, or storm bolters should I say, I paint black. The silver I use is Runefang Steel, I think. It's an intermediate. It's between bulk gunmetal and the really bright silvers. It looks like a nice metal for bolters, and at this scale you kind of want them pronounced a little bit, so the magazine and the barrels will get the metal. Maybe dot in the helmets, don't know, might just make them all the same color. And finally, the last thing I do is on the black of the bolters, well, storm bolters should I say, is a little tiny dot of Eshin Grey, just as a highlight to the black. I do that on all the bolters and Marines, Terminators, Scouts, whatever it is. So yeah, we'll give this a go, and hopefully the results are decent, and let's see what you think of them. So here's the finished Terminators. As you can see, the contrast has done all the hard work. Really quick to do these. Can't complain. Our Raven Guard on the end. The highlight's actually quite prominent on them. If you can see there, if we focus, there we go. Quite a prominent highlight on them that the contrast has done. I think it looks really good though. The blue that I've got, the Talisar blue, actually fits really good for Ultramarines. Did the yellow trim because kind of into my classical kind of looking Ultramarines. None of this gold. It's yellow. It's always been yellow. And it's heresy not to put yellow on their trims. The Blood Angel, Blood Red, Blood Angel's contrast red even, is literally built for Blood Angels. I'm actually really happy with how the Apothecary White turned out on our little White Scar. I mean, that's going to make, if you're doing a White Scars army, that's a must buy. We all know the difficulty and anguish of painting white. Well, at epic scale, white's your best mate, really. So on a larger scale, I've got a tactical detachment here. And this is all contrast yellow. Yadin yellow, some Eldar name, I assume. As we can see, these are the same technique. All contrast over Gracier. And then it's going in with an insane detail brush, or I think that brush I used was called the Psycho. Just a very small brush, and penciling in the trim of the armor pads, of the shoulder pads. Getting the black on the guns, using the Runefang steel for the magazines and barrels, and it's the same for the rhinos. Did this whole thing in an evening. Could have probably done more in that evening, but kind of taking it slow and just enjoying painting them. So, as you see, I swear by contrast for 6mm, especially if you're doing Space Marines. But even if you aren't doing Space Marines, I have, while I was doing these Terminators, I went and did some knobs. So here's 5 knobs. Snake bites aren't here because they don't really wear armor like this, because this is really mega armor, or always reminded me of mega armor. But there's a contrast, I believe, called snake bite. So if you're doing loads and loads of boys, and you want them to be all snake bites, well, the contrast is out there for you. With these boys here, just follow the same scheme for the Terminators. Once the armor was all done and dried, I went in and dotted their wee faces with the Gracier, and then that's actually orc flesh, just dotted in their faces, and then a wee bit of white to dot it in for their teeth. But the technique's exactly the same. It's one coat of contrast on them all. For the Goth, the black looks great. On the Death Skull, the blue's perfect. The Evil Sun, the red's perfect. The Blood Axe I painted in purple. Now, in honesty, you should never paint orcs purple. It's a myth, a legend, but because they're invisible, obviously. But for a Blood Axe, I did the purple, really because a purple necessary if you're doing nids at this scale. And just to show off how the purple works. The purple that I have is Volupus purple. It's lovely, gives a lovely tone, lovely look to the purple. And if you're doing nids, you could get through thousands of the blighters with it. And then obviously on the end, same colour as my Imperial Fist is a Bad Moon. And again, if I show the rears of them, you'll see a little bit better of how it goes in. It does your base, it does your shade, and it does your highlight in one fell swoop. I can't complain about it. So yeah, if you're going to do this at 6mm, if you've got an army sitting that's 20 years old and you've been wanting to paint it for years and years and years, do it the quick way. I mean, nobody's going to give you any jip about it. It's a lovely painted army. It looks really cool when it's all done together. If you get really into the detail, yeah, okay, you could get better if you spend more time on it. But who has the time, really, anymore? So pick your clan or your chapter, pick the contrast color that goes with it, and off you go. You can get an army painted in no time at all. Thanks for watching. Bye.